Hey all, welcome back to the channel. My name is Taylor and today we are upgrading my personal gaming rig. Now, it has a 3700X in it from AMD and it has a RTX 4080 which I recently purchased, and I thought this would work, but it turns out that the 4080 is such a beast that the poor little 3700X just can't quite keep up with it, so it is getting bottlenecked quite hard. So I decided to make some upgrades here. So I went with the i5 13600K and we got a Z690 motherboard with some DDR5 RAM that we're going to put into this system to upgrade it and make that RTX 4080 choke a little less so he has some room to breathe. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and pull the old stuff out, and then we're gonna have to prep our motherboard a little bit because it is a 12th gen series motherboard and we need to upgrade it to 13 gen by flashing the BIOS. So we're gonna do that. Then we're gonna put the new components in there. We have the cooler, which is the H150i. It's a 240 millimeter rad. So we're gonna go ahead and throw the new motherboard, CPU, and RAM in there with the 4080. And then once all that is done, we're gonna benchmark the system and see what kind of numbers we get. I did a benchmark of Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 before I embarked on this endeavor. And here's what those are. Like, here's Shadow of the Tomb Raider here, and here is Call of Duty. So those are kind of the numbers we're working with. It's around 124 was the max frames per second that I was getting on those two games with the 3700X and the RTX 4080. So we're gonna see if the new components get higher than that. I really hope they do. So let's go ahead, and if all that sounds good, let's get started. Hey y'all, I just wanted to pop in here real quick and let y'all know that this video is not sponsored. No money changed hands. It is completely funded by myself, and any links that I post in the description below are not affiliate links. All right, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and continue the video. So first task is we need to remove the GPU. Oh, there we go. Okay, got it. It's by GigaByte. It's an Eagle card. I got this for $1,100 at Micro Center open box, which I think was an absolute steal for this beast. Now that that's out, I think I'm gonna tackle the CPU cooler next because we need to get that off there. Right, and hopefully it comes off nice and easy. Kind of like grab it. Okay, this is a snug fit, but we got it. A bit of isopropyl alcohol to clean that surface off. And it cleans the thermal grease off the CPU cooler. Wow, I did a terrible job of applying this the first time. Before we put our new motherboard in, we need to set this guy down on the ground. So what's gonna happen here is we're gonna need to take this motherboard and flash its BIOS using a technology that is called Q-Flash. And basically just plug it into the power supply, stick a USB drive in it, hit the button that is on the actual motherboard itself, and then that should update the BIOS. All right, so this is our setup here. So it's just the power supply. I had an extra one lying around, but you can use the one that you bought with your PC components if you're doing this yourself. But yeah, we have our power cable just plugged in, and then we have the CPU power plugged into there, and also the CPU power plugged into there. Sorry, that's motherboard power. And you can see we do have a light, so this has a little power button, but the button that we're interested in is this one right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug in my flash drive to the slot that says BIOS, which should be like right there. Now I'm gonna hit this button, so that light indicator means that it is actually flashing. Our power supply did just turn on, so that indicates that we have power. So now it's very important that we don't lose power to the motherboard during this process because it is flashing the BIOS, it is writing that new data to the ROM. So if it loses power, then the board is kind of bricked. We just gotta wait for that to stop flashing. It'll take around 6 to 8 minutes. Oh, okay, our power supply just clicked off, so it is definitely done. I'm gonna unplug all this and then we're gonna get our motherboard installed. But first, I'm gonna install the CPU, I'm gonna install the RAM, and then we're gonna put it in the case. All right, unsealing the processor here. Okay. That took a little bit of finagling, but we got our processor there. There it is, and oh, look at that. It is beautiful to see an LGA socket. I am so tired of PGA, even though AMD does not go with it for its 7000 series. First thing we're gonna do, open our latch like this. Whoa, that is a sturdy latch there. We got our little CPU here. The corner with the corner, gonna drop it in, push down, and okay, that was kind of violent, but that's good. I'm gonna push down and then do this latch like so. It is popped off, and that's it. Our CPU, there it is, it's installed. So now I'm gonna peel off all the little stickies. Sticky number one, we have a big, oh look, we got another peely there. All right, and that's off, I think. And now we're gonna get our RAM, and this is G.Skill Trident Z5 RGB. It's DDR5, it is 6000 megahertz, and this is what we're gonna be installing next. When we're installing our RAM, we wanna make sure that we are installing it in the A2 and the B2 slots. Cool. I don't know if my elbow is in the way. Okay, those are clicked into place. We'll just go ahead and make sure those are secure. They're little sharp little guys, aren't they? We need to install our SSD. This is a Crucial P3 Plus. It is a 2 terabyte and it's PCI 4. It's up to 5000 megabits per second. And we just need to remove this little plate right here with this cute little fin and install this into here so that we have something that we can put our operating system on and all our programs and, you know, yada yada. You know the drill. All right, you good? You good? I think it's good. I'm gonna take this off. So I'm gonna unpeel that. All right, yeah, see that? There's like a blue sticky there. I'm gonna go ahead and just slot it in there like that, and then put it down. Our 00 Phillips head. And the SSD did come with a screw. We're gonna take this, and it also has a little sticky. So be sure to get that. And now we're just going to put it back on there. We'll get our 00. We'll ratchet that thing down. Perfect, okay, just don't freak out with the screwdriver like I did. But yeah, now that's in there, our SSD is installed, we got our stickies going, and now we should be ready to put this in the case. Okay, hi, I'm going to lay the computer down and put the motherboard in this way because I'm just not skilled enough to put it in while it's setting up. So apologies, but I'm gonna do it this way. Okay, we got audio, we got USB. It says to plug it in this way. Now what we need to do is we need to put our thermal paste on there, and I'm going to be using this. All right, that should be good. And now we're going to put our cooler on there, and we put these on in a crisscross pattern so that it applies even pressure on the thing. And we should just, yeah, I think that's good. Now I'm going to install the graphics card back in. Also, I don't know if I mentioned it, but this is the power supply is up here, and it is a Thermaltake Tough Power series, and it is 1650 watts. I wanted that ATX 3 power, and this definitely delivers. 16 pin going in, and it clicked, which is good. We want it to click. I have the front panel off, so I figured I might as well show you. There is the radiator fans for the 150i, keep forgetting the name of it. And then I don't know if you guys want to see the back of my case, but we're not going to talk about it, okay? And there's the power supply. He's just chilling up there. Okay, I think I am in frame. I hope I am in frame, but here we go. Y'all are going to see it first. There's power. We're going through some post codes. The system just powered off. Oh, and we have fans down there. It just turned off again. Now it's on. It posted! Oh my goodness. It posted. That was a little scary. Are we in our BIOS? We are in our BIOS. Okay, so it boot looped like 3 times, like power off, power on, power off, power on. But now we are at a solid A6. I don't know what that means, but we're at A6. I guess that means it's good. It looks like we have lights down there. Okay, so down here, it looks like we have X.M.P disabled. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go up here. I'm gonna hit it. I'm going to go over to save and exit. All right, yes, there it is. Okay, 6,000 mega transfers per second. That's how you do it. It is the next day and I got my Windows 11 installed on the computer and all set up. I installed Windows 11 on this computer because of the E-core, P-core optimizations that Windows 11 brings to this architecture. Also, the driver software for GigaByte was super impressive. It was very straightforward. It immediately popped up when Windows was installed and was like, hey, do you want to install the drivers for the motherboard? And I was like, yeah, I do. Thank you, GigaByte. And it just had them all there in one suite. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to run the benchmark for Modern Warfare 2 and see what results we get there. Remember, the first time we ran it, we were CPU bound. We were having a bottleneck with the CPU, so let's see what happens now. You can see that it is completely flipped now. We have a 99% bottleneck on the GPU and a 1% on the CPU, which means we have no more CPU bottleneck. We have eliminated it. We are at 188 frames per second for the average, and we do have NVIDIA DLSS on balanced mode. Before we were getting 124 frames per second. All right, here we are in actual gameplay for Modern Warfare 2. This is just the multiplayer mode on shipment. And we're getting 202 frames per second, 215 frames per second. So we're hitting about that 200 frames per second mark. I went ahead and fired up Shadow of the Tomb Raider and ran the benchmark tool in that program, since that's what we ran for the 3700X. With the 3700X, we were getting 124 frames per second average. With the 13600K, we're getting 219 frames per second average, so that was a big increase there. And that just goes to show you that we no longer have that CPU ceiling anymore, but we have a much higher ceiling and we're 60% GPU bound. Here's all the settings, pretty much all maxed out, and the display is 1440p. All these are 1440p. This card is amazing for 1440p. Here's the most demanding game that I'm going to test, and this is Cyberpunk. We are running at 1440p, and our graphics setting, we have DLSS set to balanced, and pretty much all the other settings are absolutely cranked. Ultra and high, highest, ray tracing off. In this results, we are getting 130, 125, 128 frames per second. So we're getting up to 150. So that is not bad. And our GPU is at 97%, so we're utilizing the whole thing, with the GPU being the bottleneck. The CPU is not the bottleneck. And we're staying around 60 degrees Celsius, which is really, really cool, actually. We're gonna go ahead and set our ray tracing to ultra. Everything else is the same, so we still have DLSS on. And with ray tracing set to ultra, we are getting 100 frames per second. So we dropped about 50 frames per second. Looks like we dipped down into like 89. But we are still hovering around that 100 frames per second, which is pretty good. Now we're gonna go absolutely crazy and drop DLSS altogether. So we're running at 1440p native, no downsampling, no downscaling whatsoever. And we left all of the settings on, including ray tracing. And so ray tracing set to ultra, we're running at 1440p native, and we're getting like 55, 60 frames per second. So we are around that 60 frames per second territory. We drop down to 48 there. So in between 48 and 50 frames per second, which is completely playable. And now we'll go ahead and leave all our settings, normal DLSS off. We're gonna go ahead and turn off our ray tracing. Everything else is cranked. We're at 1440p native, no DLSS, and with no ray tracing, we now are getting around 70, 69 frames per second, 80. So it's hovering around 69, 80, 60. Okay, it's kind of all over the place with this, but it is still very playable with this frames per second. Here is the score we're getting in Cinebench R23 for the multi-core score. For the 13600K, we are getting 24,310, which is insane. That beats the M1 Ultra chip, and it blows the M1 Max out of the water. So this is by far my fastest CPU I've ever had. This computer also got a DaVinci Resolve PugetBench score of 2717, which is a really, really high score. So this totally could serve as a video editing system very easily. This can edit videos, no problem with that score. That is a very good PugetBench score. I think those benchmarks tell a pretty good story that this computer is an absolute beast when it comes to 1440p gaming. My goal was to have high frame rates for 1440p gaming since I have a 240 hertz monitor, and this easily makes all that happen. I can game at those high frames per second, even at native 1440p, some minimal DLSS to get those frames high for games like Modern Warfare 2. It is amazing. The system is so fast, just Windows and everything, interfaces are super snappy. The system is insanely fast and I love it. Thank you guys for joining me on this build, and stay tuned because I do have another build coming up, which is going to be my streaming / game recording system. So get subscribed so you don't miss that. And if you like this video, leave a like. I'll see you guys in the next one.